Happy Earth Day, boys and girls. I want to welcome you to a very special and magical place here in West Palm Beach, Florida. This is the 2-acre secret garden of an important artist, a woman by the name of Ann Weaver Norton. Ann was inspired by nature. Ann used materials from nature, such as wood, to create her masterpieces. There is a wonderful book that I hope you will read in its entirety when you return to your school. I want to show it to you right now. The name of my book is The Awesome Adventures of Annie V. This book was written by Pamela Caruso and Cynthia Palmieri. They are good friends of mine and good friends of the gardens. This is a book you might find in your classroom library, in school, or your school's media center. And I'll tell you why. Many of your schoolmates and teachers in your school have visited the Ann Norton Sculpture Gardens. We have had many field trips come to our garden, and it is always a pleasure to see young people such as yourselves and to enjoy with you the treasures in Ann's garden. So look for this book when you return to school. This is a chapter book. There are many chapters in the book, each with its own activity. That means there is a page that encourages you to draw or to write or to design something as you read through the story. The story begins with Ann as a young girl. Ann loved the nickname Annie. She liked her middle name so much she used the first initial, and people called her Annie V. Come take a look at Annie as a young child. Here we have Annie at 4 years old in front of her home in Selma, Alabama. Annie was born in 1905. This book contains family photographs that show you real pictures of Ann's life. In that way, this book is a primary resource for the story of Annie V. Here we have a picture of Annie as an adult woman. This is what Annie looked like when she grew up, and she had made many sculptures in this garden. So, read with me now, Chapter 3, the story of Annie's love for her grandfather's garden in particular. This chapter is called Connecting with Critters. I'm sure I don't have to tell you what a critter in a garden might be. She writes, "One of my favorite things to do is to spend time at Emerald Place. Emerald Place has been in our family since my ancestors came to Alabama after the Revolutionary War. It has an old fig grove with crooked, knotty trees. Each tree has its own personality. My mother says, for all of us and everything under the sun, there is an individual personality. Let me show you something I found right here in Ann's garden. Take a look at this piece of a plant. It is dried and dead now. However, do you think it has its own personality? I do. In Emerald Place, the bees come to pollinate the flowers and make honeycomb. There is a big pond with millions of tadpoles, fat frogs that make sounds like a happy orchestra, and dragonflies and damselflies dancing all around. Take a look at this illustration. You see Annie examining the critters in Emerald Place. I like to do that in Ann's garden also. Each time I venture into the garden, I find wonderful treasures. Look at this beautiful butterfly. Oh, it lost a wing. In the pond in Ann's garden, I find many tadpoles. Look at this one, already with 2 hind legs. Hind legs are the back legs. And of course, our wonderful dragonflies. So many dragonflies in Ann's garden. It's almost impossible to count them all. Now, let me continue with chapter 3. I like to lie on the ground and take out my magnifying glass and explore everything little that lives beneath my feet. The ants seem the busiest. But then there are the beetles swiftly scurrying about, and the worms slowly working their way around. Up above are the butterflies and the moths. I love to look at their symmetrical wings. Sometimes I grab a jar. You know, the kind that jelly comes in, and I put critters in it so I can observe them up close. I poke air holes in the lid so everything can breathe. I like to watch them for the longest time, and then I always set them free. Did I tell you about my official record book? It's just a little notebook. I keep it tucked in my overalls. I like to journal about the things that I find and that I see. Sometimes I write down the birds, all the kinds of birds that fly by, or an animal like the fox running through the grove, or sometimes even my brother William, who is a specimen in my book. Do you have a specimen in your family? The Alabama state bird is the yellow hammer woodpecker. My father says it uses its stiff feathered tail to balance as it bores into the wood for more insects. This ends chapter 3, but not the book, The Awesome Adventures of Annie V. And again, I invite you to find this book in your library and to read the whole book. It's a wonderful story. But today, I'd like to ask you to join me in using a page, not from my journal, but from this book, it is the page that I have right here for you. Comes right from page 16 of my book. This is a page that your parents may find on this computer website and may print it for you so that you might enjoy doing your own activity from the awesome adventures of Annie V. Now, look at the beautiful drawing that has been captured by the artist and illustrator Henry Cole. He has included a jelly jar, such as the one that Anne would use to put her specimens in for closer observation. A frog, a bee, and of course butterflies. Don't forget in your garden to recognize the wonderful living things that are plants as well. We have so many here in Florida, and they're so varied and beautiful. So, I want you to use this space to create a poem. It can be a very short poem. I think you have enough space for a 4-line poem inspired by a garden that you may enjoy. Be sure you capture your experiences by using your senses. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? What did you touch? Try to include an interesting critter that could become a character in your poem. Now, just before I say goodbye and urge you to find this on your website, I want to give you a quick example. Would you like to look with me at something I have written? Here it is. Your poem could be simply a short 4 lines, wiggles and jiggles, wriggles and squirms. My favorite animals, the yucky worms. Short, funny. It includes an animal, those yucky worms, that I find in the garden. Another poem might include worms as well. I just picked worms today. The leaves are smooth. The worms are slimy. But don't touch that poison ivy. Does a poem have to rhyme? No, it does not. Use your senses. Use your excellent writing skills. Use your love and travels in the garden to write your own poem. Happy Earth Day, boys and girls.